10 People Who Almost Killed Hitler. During his 12-year reign, the infamous dictator, Hitler, saw more hate than love. As a result of the growing hatred, a number of assassination attempts on Hitler were planned. He was the target of numerous murder plots by foreign governments, political enemies, and even by some of his former followers who came to oppose his barbaric practices. While some of the attempts were nipped in the bud, others came very close to killing him. In this list, we bring you 10 such people who almost killed Hitler. 10. Kurtler. Kurtler, along with other members of an anti-Nazi group, planned to end Hitler with a bomb in March 1933, but someone leaked the details and Ler was arrested just one day before carrying out the plan. Kurtler was a ship's carpenter and leader of a communist anti-Nazi group called the Ler Group. After Adolf Hitler's election as Chancellor on 30th of January, they planned to kill him. The plan was to assassinate Hitler on the 4th of March during his election speech, a day before the Reichstag elections. The plan failed as Ler and the entire group were arrested just one day before Hitler's election speech. 9. Heinrich Grunow. In 1935, armed with a pistol, Heinrich Grunow hid at a place where Hitler's car was sure to slow down. He fired when the car reached the spot, but instead of Hitler the bullet hit the driver as the driver was sitting in the back seat and Hitler was driving the car himself. In 1935, SS soldier Heinrich Grunow along with Otto Strasser, head of the Black Front opposition movement, set up a plan to kill Hitler. They decided that the best opportunity would be while the Führer was driven to his beloved Berchtesgaden retreat. Grunow was a member of the close guard protecting Hitler at Berchtesgaden. So, he knew a spot on the road where the car had to slow down to less than 15 miles per hour. It was decided that it will be a propitious location to shoot Hitler. On the intended day, Heinrich Grunow set up outside Hitler's retreat in the Alps with a rifle, firing upon Hitler's car as it drove by. 8. Maurice Bavard. In 1943, Bavard bought a semi-automatic pistol to kill Hitler, posed as a Swiss reporter, and attended a parade in which Hitler participated every year. He abandoned the assassination attempt when he saw Hitler marching with other Nazi leaders because he did not want to injure them. Bavard, a Catholic theology student, was obsessed with the idea of killing Hitler. On October 9, 1938, Bavard traveled from Brittany to Basel where he bought a Schmisser 6.35mm semi-automatic pistol. Following the advice of a policeman in Berlin, Bavard traveled to Munich for the anniversary of the 1923 beer hall putsch which Hitler attended every year. Bavard bought a ticket for a seat on the reviewing stand by posing as a Swiss reporter. His intention was to shoot Hitler as the latter passed during the parade. Bavard abandoned this attempt when, on November 9, Hitler turned out to be marching in the company of other Nazi leaders whom Bavard did not want to injure. 7. Eberhard von Brettenbuch. Eberhard von Brettenbuch was recruited by General Dreskow into a conspiracy to kill Hitler. But he failed to do so as he was denied entry into the conference room. Eberhard von Brettenbuch was reserve cavalry captain in Army Group Center and aide to Field Marshal Ernst Busch. Following a debate with General Dreskow, Brettenbuch agreed to attempt to assassinate the Führer. But, instead of a suicide attempt using a bomb, he chose to shoot him in the head. On the 9th of March 1944, Busch and his aides were summoned to brief Hitler on 11 March at his Berghof residence in Bavaria. On March 11, 1944, armed with a 7.65mm Browning concealed in his trouser pocket, aide-de-camp Breitenbuch accompanied Field Marshal Ernst Busch to attend the conference. But earlier that day, the SS guards were ordered not to permit aides into the conference room. So, Breitenbuch could not carry out his plan to assassinate Hitler. 6. Johann Georg Elser. In 1939, Georg Elser, a 36-year-old carpenter, spent 30 nights hollowing out a pillar in a German beer hall to plant a bomb. On the day of the explosion, Hitler finished his annual speech early, so the bomb exploded 13 minutes after Hitler left the hall. Johann Georg Elser was a German worker who planned extensively to carry out an assassination attempt on Adolf Hitler. He began by working in the Volmer quarry in Königsbrunn, from where he collected an arsenal of 105 blasting cartridges and 125 detonators. He arrived in Munich on the 5th of August 1939. Soon, he became a regular at the Burger Bräukeller restaurant for his evening meal and was able to enter the adjoining Burger Bräukeller beer hall before the doors were locked at about 10:30 p.m. Over the next 2 months, Elser stayed all night inside the Burger Bräukeller 30 to 35 times. Inside the hall, he hollowed out a pillar directly behind the speaker's podium, installed the explosives in the pillar, and set the timer. After setting the timer, he left Munich on 7 November, a day before Hitler's speech at the Burger Bräukeller. On the 8th of November 1939, Hitler made his annual speech at the Munich Beer Hall. He had decided to return to Berlin the same night by his private train, so he cut his speech from the normal 2 hours to only a 1-hour duration. His speech ended at 9:07 p.m., 13 minutes before Elser's bomb exploded at 9:20 p.m. By that time, Hitler and his entourage had left the Burger Bräukeller. 5. Henning von Dreskow. Henning von Dreskow tried to kill Hitler by planting a bomb in his plane, but the plane ascended to too high an altitude, compromising the integrity of the chemicals and stopping the bomb from going off. On March 13, 1943, Henning von Dreskow planned to kill Hitler in a plot called Operation Flash. Hitler was planning to fly back to Rosenberg, Germany, from Vinnytsia in the USSR, and a stopover was planned at Smolensk. At Smolensk, Dreskow asked Lieutenant Colonel Heinz Brandt, who was traveling with Hitler, whether he would be good enough to take a bottle of Cointreau to Colonel Helmut Stief at Hitler's headquarters in East Prussia as a payment for a lost bet. Brandt readily agreed. The Cointreau was actually a bomb constructed of a British plastic explosive, Plastic C, placed into the casing of a British magnetic mine, with a timer consisting of a spring which would be gradually dissolved by acid. The 30-minute fuse was activated before Hitler's Condor plane was to take off and the package was handed to Brandt. But Hitler landed safely at his East Prussian headquarters. This was because the bomb failed to detonate, as the extremely low temperatures in the unheated luggage compartment prevented the chemicals in the fuse from working. 4. Philipp von Boeselager. In March 1943, von Boeselager was to shoot Hitler and the head of the SS, Heinrich Himmler, at a military conference in March. The operation was aborted when it became known that Himmler would be absent. In 1942, the 25-year-old field lieutenant, Philipp von Boeselager, was part of Operation Walküre. Operation Walküre was a plan developed to retake control of Germany once Hitler had been assassinated. With his commanding officer, Field Marshal Günther von Kluge, Boeselager joined a plot to assassinate the Führer. Boeselager's opportunity came in March 1943 when both Hitler and Heinrich Himmler were coming to the front to participate in a strategy meeting with Kluge's troops. Boeselager was given a semi-automatic pistol, a Walther PP, with which he was to shoot both Hitler and Himmler at a dinner table in the officers' mess. But at the last minute, Himmler left Hitler's company. The risk of leaving him alive was too great, as Himmler could have succeeded Hitler as the leader of the Nazi Party. So, the plan was aborted. 3. Rudolf Christoph Freiherr von Gersdorf. Colonel Gersdorf tried to kill Hitler with 2 small bombs that he hid in his suit during a tour of an exhibition. This scheme failed because Hitler shortened the length of the tour from half an hour to only 8 minutes, and then stayed for only 2. On the 21st of March 1943, Hitler visited an armory to inspect Soviet weapons captured during the war. As an expert, Colonel Rudolf Christoph Freiherr von Gersdorf was to guide Hitler during the tour. Moments after Hitler entered the museum, Gersdorf set off 2 10-minute delayed fuses on explosive devices hidden in his coat pockets. His plan was to throw himself around Hitler in a death embrace that would blow them both up. Once at the exhibition hall, Gersdorf was informed that the Führer was to inspect the exhibits for only 8 minutes. After Hitler left the building, Gersdorf was able to defuse the devices in a public bathroom at the last second. 2. Axel Freiherr von dem Bus. German army officer and resistance member, Axel von dem Bus, volunteered for a suicide attack on Hitler twice, in which he planned to hide explosives in his uniform, hug the Führer, and detonate the bombs. However, both attempts failed. In November 1943, Hitler was due to inspect new army winter uniforms at Wolfschanz, the Wolf's Lair. Bus, over 2 meters tall, blonde, and blue-eyed, was an ideal model for the uniforms. Encouraged by Colonel Klaus Stauffenberg, Bus agreed to carry out a suicide bombing to kill Hitler on the day of inspection. Bus equipped a landmine with a fast-reacting hand grenade detonator, which he intended to hide in the deepest pockets of his uniform trousers. He planned to detonate this bomb while embracing Hitler, killing both Hitler and himself. But the night before the inspection, the railway truck containing the new uniforms was destroyed in an Allied air raid on Berlin. Bus volunteered to try again in February 1944, when new uniforms would again be delivered. However, in January 1944, he was seriously wounded and lost one of his legs. Another officer, Captain Ewald von Kleist, volunteered to carry out the mission at a viewing on the 11th of February 1944. However, Hitler repeatedly postponed and finally cancelled the event. 1. Klaus von Stauffenberg. In 1944, Klaus von Stauffenberg attempted to assassinate Adolf Hitler with a briefcase full of plastic explosives. When the bomb detonated less than 2 feet away, Hitler survived because of the thickness of the table leg and because he was leaning on the table, which absorbed most of the damage. On the 20th of July 1944, Colonel Klaus Graf von Stauffenberg arrived at Wolfschanz, or Wolf's Lair. It was Hitler's secret headquarters on the Eastern Front, located in a forest in East Prussia. Stauffenberg walked into the complex to attend the daily briefing of the Führer by Germany's High Command. He carried a black suitcase along with him which contained 2 bombs. Once inside, Stauffenberg began setting the bombs. He was interrupted, so he only was able to put one of 2 explosives in his briefcase before entering the conference room. During the meeting, Stauffenberg put the briefcase under the table and left the room shortly afterward. In the absence of Stauffenberg, someone moved the briefcase behind a table leg just before the explosion, so the bomb was not as powerful as intended. Also, Hitler was leaning over the thick oak table looking at maps when it went off, which helped shield him from the blast. 4 died in the explosion and many were injured, but Hitler survived.